Hello chess enthusiasts, my name is Miha and welcome to my chessrealm YouTube channel. So we are still at Margaryan Memorial. In the 6th round there was an interesting game between Rudik, Makarian and Nikita, Petrov. Let's see what happened. Rudik, Makarian had white pieces and he started with d4, d5, c4, c6, knight to f3, knight to f6 and now knight to c3. So we have a Slav defense, 3 knights variation. White is offering this d captures on c4 and later with e4 maybe transposing into a Geller gambling, very sharp opening. There is still debate whether it is justified, but anyway, black doesn't go for it. e6 was played, transposing into a semi-Slav defense, and now white plays bishop to g5, pinning this knight on f6. So black plays bishop to e7, unpinning, and now white continues with e3. And black plays h6, attacking bishop on g5, forcing white to immediately decide what to do with the bishop. Now, the most popular option is to remove the bishop back to h4, but white captures knight on f6. And of course, black recaptures, so still we have a couple of games with this continuation in the database. Still, it's not very common. And now white develops further. Queen to c2 was played, black castles king side, and white plays h4. Immediate action on the king side, of course threatening with g4, later with g5, very unpleasant, so black has to react immediately, and the usual way to do it is to strike the center, so c5 was played, and now of course white plays g4, c captures on d4, e pawn recaptures, and now knight to f6, sorry c6, putting more pressure on d4 pawn, who is double attack. There's no any good way of defending other than with the rook, so white castles queen side. Now pawn on d4 is protected. Still this threat of g5 is quite unpleasant. I mean, if black makes a random move after g5, of course black cannot remove the bishop because g captures on h6, and if g pawn recaptures we have this open g file to harass the black king. So here black would definitely have to capture on d5 after white recaptures. Of course, again, white threatens with mate in 1, so black would have to capture with check, and after knight recaptures, again queen to g5 check, but here another good move as white's disposal, f4, opening additional files. Of course, if queen captures check, white removes the king, and there is still this mate in 1 here, very unpleasant. So after g6, again white threatens with bishop to d3, preparing to sacrifice this bishop. Even if black captures on d4, attacking the queen, simply queen to g2, and again preparing this devastating attack on the black king, so this would be very, very unpleasant for black. Okay, so black plays g6, preparing to retreat the bishop to g7. Of course, now white plays g5, h-pawn captures on g5, h-pawn recaptures, and now bishop captures on g5 check. Of course, trick from before doesn't work now, because if knight captures after queen recaptures, even after f4 queen captures, and after king to b1, now black has a tempo and plays king to g7, protecting this h1 square, so here black is safe. So white plays king to b1, and now black removes the bishop to f6, preparing to deploy it on g7, because now white plays bishop to d3, preparing to strike here on g6 again. Black makes a random move, again bishop to g6, and if black captures, then queen recaptures check. The only way to defend is bishop to g7, but after knight to g5 is going to be made here, unless black sacrifices his queen for knight. So black plays bishop to g7, preventing this immediate check, and now white makes another very interesting move. Knight goes to e5. Now the general idea is here to remove the knight from the f file, and later with this f4 pawn push, creating way for white queen to go to h2, from where it could be very deadly. And of course, this bishop to g6 is still a valid threat. So if black makes a random move, let's say a6, then bishop captures on g7. Of course, if black makes another random move, then simply bishop to h7 check, king to h8, bishop to g8, king captures, and queen to h7 checkmate. If, however, black captures this bishop, then queen to g6, threatening with mate here on h7. Of course, black can black can capture knight, but after white recaptures again, this is devastating for black. For example, white threatens with rook to h7, this bishop is pinned, and this is going to be over very quick. Okay, so in the game, black plays knight captures on d4, attacking queen on c2, but now white makes another stunning move, bishop captures on g6, leaving offering black to capture the queen, and of course black accepts the sacrifice, so knight captures on c2. And now white plays bishop to h7 check, he has no other option but to go to h8, and bishop now captures on c2, it's check from the rook. So black has a queen for a light piece, but if king goes back to g8, then again bishop can go to h7 check, and when king goes back we have a threefold repetition. And the game would end in a draw. But still, probably black considered, what about if black sacrificed another piece in order to escape the threefold repetition. Let's see, if bishop goes to h6, then of course rook captures check, king has no other option but to go to g7, and now of course rook to h7 check. Well, king cannot go to g8 because it's rook to g1 checkmate. Well, of course black can delay this for one move, but that's it. So here black would have to go to f6. Now white has two pieces for queen, and the correct way to continue the attack would be to play f4, protecting this knight on e5. Now let's take a look at this position, since it's not very easy to calculate all this. Well, if black does nothing, for example makes a random move, then white simply captures on d5. If black again makes a random move, it's d6, protecting this e7 square, threatening with knight to g4 checkmate in 1. Of course black can only avert this by capturing this pawn, losing decisive material. If however e-pawn captures on d5, we have knight to d5 check. Again, black can return the queen, but then white has decisive material advantage. If however king goes to e6, then we have rook to h6 check. And now the only way to defend the check is f6, but then we have knight goes to g6, threatening to capture this rook. Well, if black wants to preserve the rook, then we have knight goes to c7 and discover attack. And if black wants to preserve the queen, then queen captures here, then we have f5 check, and now the only option is king to f7, but after rook to h7, once this king is gone, white gains decisive material. Now let's take a look, for example, then queen goes to a5. Again, c-pawn captures on d5, and after e-pawn recaptures, then knight to d5 check. Now the only option is king to e6, but then bishop to b3, preparing discover attack on the king. Well, if black wants to get away, for example, to f5, then we have rook to h5 check. After king goes back to e6, again rook to h6 check, and if king goes back to f5, we have bishop to c2 checkmate. And if black, for example, defend the check with f6, then we have knight to c7 check, and let's say, for example, if king goes to e7, it's knight to g6 checkmate. And if, for example, king goes to f5, then we have rook to h5 check. King has no other option but to play king to h4, and after knight to e3, we have check and discover attack on the queen. There are some minor other variations, but in all of them black is lost. And let's take a look, for example, if black tries to run on this e7 square. Well, if king goes to e7, again c-pawn captures here on d5, and again threatening with d6. Well, rook to b8 doesn't help, because then we have d6, king goes to e8, bishop goes to a4 check, and then b5 doesn't help because knight captures, threatening here with mate in 1. If rook captures, bishop captures, the only way to defend is bishop to e7. After bishop captures, queen captures, knight captures, king captures, and white is a whole rook up. If, however, e-pawn captures on d5, again knight to d5 check, again king has more options. Well, let's see, if king goes to e8, again bishop to a4 check, and it's going to be over soon. If king goes to d6, we have knight to b6, discover attack on the rook, and then later white also grabs the queen, again decisive material advantage. If, however, king goes to e6, then again we have rook to h6 check. The only way to defend is f6, but then again we have knight to g6 attacking this rook. Well, if black wants to preserve the rook, rook to g8, let's say, then again knight to c7, discover attack. If black wants to preserve queen, after queen captures, we have again f5 check, king to a7, rook to h7 check, king can only go to e8, then rook captures, threatening here with mate e1. The only way to protect it is if rook captures. Anyway, white is winning in all variations. And realizing this, therefore in game Nikita Petrov played king to g8, now bishop to h7, king went back to h8, and after bishop to c2, both players agreed to draw. So I hope you like this game, I hope you have learned something from it. If you have any questions, my email is below in the description. Of course, I invite you to visit my Instagram page. That's it for now, and see you soon.